These indigenous families in Paraguay are packing up their belongings and moving to the other side of this fence. They have been living precariously on the side of a highway in Paraguay's remote Chaco region for more than 20 years, ever since a German cattle rancher and the Paraguayan state illegally kicked them off of their ancestral lands. A 2006 Inter-American Human Rights Court ruling held the Paraguayan state responsible for returning roughly 14,000 hectares to the community Sawayamasa, a small fraction of their original territories. After pursuing every legal means possible and even blocking the highway in protest to no avail, the community decided in March of 2013 to take matters into their own hands and reoccupy their lands.
Apila da ella se veía la el estado con baila ro yapota no re mungar bueno y cuengo orevare apata orengo me la comunidad me ha puesto 3 años de plazo la o negociamos agua y cuela co orevu la el estado hay papel no cumplir y cuai entonces ahora ro ya por quién tema.
Families living in Sawayamasa are ancestral indigenous peoples, but only the elderly members of the community still speak their native tongue. Most speak Guarani, one of the 2 official languages of Paraguay, which is spoken by the majority of the population, with prevalence in rural areas. Living conditions on the side of the road are poor. Housing is improvised, there is no space to plant crops, and there have been a number of fatal accidents where community members are killed by freighter trucks. Residents say that being forcefully separated from their land has estranged them from their culture, language, and livelihood.
La calle pero íbamos digamos ahí yo recuperado mi anterior yo recuerdo mi anciano hoy cojas porque no mantener la propio educación ya eso porque la oye educación siempre ore propio idioma ore farra ore religión umia juana bebé los saquen la inflama la pesa sin tierra pero pesa la mañana por lo menos voy por lo menos yendo esa ponerlo allí de cola porque diga tengo que tener una familia con más de 60.000 hectáreas ahora no hay calle como un buen paraguayo y cuadro que sea humano o hay animal.
The Gran Chaco is an expansive, semi-arid lowland region spanning across Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. The western half of Paraguay is comprised of Chaco, which is home to the majority of the country's indigenous peoples, who comprise just under 2% of the national population. Rapid deforestation has slammed the Paraguayan Chaco in recent years. The cleared land is used for cattle ranching, which along with the industrial production of transgenic soybeans in the country's eastern region, is a key motor of the now booming national economy. In many cases, the ranchers come from neighboring Brazil, or are comprised of communities of German-speaking Mennonites. Land distribution is one of the most contentious issues in contemporary Paraguay. A mere 2% of the population controls well over 80% of the land. Perla Alvarez is an organizer with CONAMURI, the National Coordinating Committee of Indigenous and Rural Worker Women. She says the Paraguayan state encourages a model of development that prioritizes the expansion of large-scale capital over the protection of indigenous land rights and autonomy.
El Estado en nuestro país se ha caracterizado históricamente por servir a un modelo de tenencia de la tierra que favorece a los grandes propietarios, es decir, favorece el latifundio y el modelo productivo que condice con esta forma de tenencia de tierra que es el monocultivo o la ganadería extensiva. Entonces, esto hace que el Estado no garantice y no respete los derechos garantizados por las leyes, por los documentos, por los acuerdos, y permanentemente el propio Estado está violando los derechos de los pueblos indígenas.
In the case of Sawayamasa, the land has been claimed by a German national named Heribert Rodel, a cattle rancher who was wanted by Interpol for defrauding Germans in a Paraguayan land investment scheme. He is the president of the Grupo Liebig Ranchers Association in Paraguay and owns tens of thousands of hectares of land in the Paraguayan Chaco. Rodel has previously offered to sell the disputed lands to the state at prices well above the market rates, and he has also requested the eviction of the community since they began reoccupying their lands this past March. Without the cover of the Inter-American Court ruling, the community would likely have already been evicted, as is often the outcome in similar land disputes in the Paraguayan countryside. The state has so far failed to complete the court's order, which also included such measures as the payment of reparations and the construction of infrastructural projects at Sawayamasa. Reoccupies works with Tierra Viva, an organization that has aided Sawayamasa in the legal aspects of their case.
Esto no es un caso aislado, este es un caso, el caso de Sawayamasa es el caso de muchas otras comunidades indígenas. Entonces lo que vemos nosotros es que el Estado no quiere dejar un precedente de expropiar unas tierras que le pertenecen a las comunidades indígenas de un ganadero.
Now several months into their reoccupation, the more than 100 families of Sawayamasa are establishing more permanent housing and planting crops. The government says it has re-entered negotiations with the community to determine the legal future of the ancestral lands in accordance with the Inter-American Human Rights Court's ruling. For this ancestral community, they are finally feeling at home for the first time in 2 decades, and are determined not to leave again. Reporting from the Paraguayan Chaco, this is David Doherty with the Real News Network.